as the world enters a new era. A new chapter of tourism has begun. Thailand presents amazing new chapters. Thailand has it all from A to Z. Awaken your senses. Start a new chapter to awaken your senses and feel more alive. Beyond expectation. Start new experiences that go beyond every expectation. Craft your imagination. Start new excitement that inspires anywhere, anytime. New expressions of romance. Start a new chapter in life, more romantic than words can describe. Overjoyed with excitement, start a joyful new day where your heart beats to the new rhythms. Pump your heart with flames of passion. Start a new memory that ignites flames of unforgettable passion. Reconnect with nature. Start a new rhythm that reconnects and refreshes your soul with nature. Submerge yourself in local culture. Start new laughter that echoes loudly through local community-based tourism. Experience new chapters of Thailand. Visit Thailand Year 2022. Amazing new chapters. Amazing Thailand.
Szukasz atrakcyjnych terenów inwestycyjnych? Potrzebujesz działki dla swojej firmy? W Toruniu mamy to, czego szukasz. Blisko 40 hektarów dla biznesu w strefie inwestycyjno-logistycznej. Tereny pod usługi, produkcje, składy i magazyny. Połączenie z autostradą A1. Uzbrojenie i drogi dojazdowe. Działki dla małych i średnich przedsiębiorstw od 2000 m2. Tereny dla inwestorów nawet do 4 hektarów. Toruń. Przyjedź, zobacz, zainwestuj.
Good morning and good afternoon in Indonesia. Welcome to the International Asian Congress. On behalf of the organizers, I have a privilege to deliver a few remarks. First of all, thank you very much for accepting invitation. Thank you to Ms. Renata Lessner-Schwarz for cooperating for many months, actually, for putting this great panel together. It's a great enrichment to the Congress. This year we have a 9th edition of the Congress, and our main partner is actually the Embassy of Thailand, of the Royal Kingdom of Thailand. And during the official opening, the Charge d'Affaires of Thailand said that in Thailand, number 9 is a very lucky number. So we believe that for this Congress, it actually brings a lot of opportunities, because we are focusing on Asia or particular countries or certain parts of the region, sub-regions, interdisciplinarily at politics, at economics, at society, also at culture. So thank you very much again. And this meeting today, Fieldwork in Indonesia, Challenges and Perspectives, is very great enrichment and value to the Congress. It will be recorded so that after its process, it will be available on YouTube. We will let you know, definitely. And all the Congress participants and everybody interested can also access to that. The organizers also asked me to remind you that you're welcome to submit your papers for publication. The deadline has been initially set at the end of September. But I think I will be in touch with Ms. Renata Lessner-Schwarz about it. So the details will be discussed and delivered later on. So the Congress is quite a hybrid event. We have, after the main pandemic, after the main problems related to pandemic, we have returned to the stationary form. So yesterday and 2 days ago, we've hosted in Torun around 400 participants. And we are hoping that maybe next year or in the future editions, you'll be able to come to join us on the venue in Torun, which is a beautiful city. I think Ms. Renata can also confirm it's worth visiting, definitely. So thank you very much again for joining us, and we are looking forward to listening to your papers today, to your remarks, and welcome to join the Congress in the future editions. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Michał. So we still give maybe a few minutes to Professor. I hope connection will be enough because it's really windy day today in Torun. So I hope in the technical way it will be everything perfect. Good morning, Daria.
Hello, selamat pagi dari Poznań. Yeah, it's windy in Poznań also, so I thought that maybe connection will be not possible, but here I am. So
nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Actually, we are also doing the Indonesian conference in Poznań in December this year, so we'll let you know. All participants are also invited. I will probably send call for papers next month, probably.
Because we have this idea to organize Congress with Poznań, but unfortunately we have COVID time and it's like 2 years later.
Yeah, but maybe you would like to participate in the December one. We have to, meet through via Zoom again and talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So let me check information from Professor. Oh, he's coming. So great. During waiting for Professor, I will attach abstract, so you will have time to read.
Halo.
Good day.
Selamat sore, Pak.
Selamat sore. Terima kasih, Marsana.
Oh ya, saya terima kasih. Senang Bapak bisa ikut dan semuanya teman-teman dari Indonesia senang sekali.
Iya.
Okay, I think we can start. We are from Hold the Word today. So good morning, good afternoon, good day. My name is Renata Lesner-Schwartz, and I'm pleased to invite you to the panel Fieldwork in Indonesia, Challenges and New Perspectives, which is a part of 9th International Asian Congress. At the end of 2019, we witnessed a change initiated by coronavirus pandemic. We experienced directly or indirectly previously unknown, difficult, and incomprehensible. The English language is quite difficult sometimes. So we experience very difficult situations. The new reality has become a challenge in everyday life, and it has significantly influenced field research by researchers, scientists, including cultural anthropologists, ethnomusicologists, and cultural researchers. Today's meeting aims to present the field research in Indonesia. I'm very glad that panelists accept my invitation, and together we can discuss about research challenges and research new perspectives. Our meeting is divided in 2 parts. During the first one, each of panelists will present their presentations on field research in Indonesia. During the second part, we will devote to the discussion. As the first one, we'll accord the Professor Bambang Sunarto from Institute Seni Indonesia from Surakarta. Then Dr. Marzanna Popławska from Institute of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology, Warsaw University in Poland. Then I will invite Dr. Dia Cahaya Iman and Eva Najma from Andalas University from Padang in Indonesia. And they will present 2 papers. And then I will invite Anna Stempien from Brunel University in London. Each panelist has 10 minutes for presentation. After all presentation, we will have time for discussion. So I would like to invite as a first speaker, Professor Bambang Sunarto. And I want to remind you that in chat you can find the abstracts of all presentations.
I'm the first speaker.
Professor, you're a first speaker. Yes.
This is good for me. Okay. Firstly, I would like to thank you to the University of Warsaw that has invited me to the present as speaker in this webinar, entitled Fieldwork in Indonesia, Challenge and New Perspective. First of all, I thank to Dr. Marzanna, my best friend, for helping me a lot when I carried out the visiting scholar program at Wesleyan University. I firmly believe that if there were no Dr. Marzanna, I would have never been a speaker on this occasion. Firstly, I want to apologize if my pronunciation in English, because I believe that my English made the listener somewhat uncomfortable because of my limited ability to speak English. I would also like to congratulate to the entire webinar organizing committee, hoping that this webinar can produce productive new talks that can enliven socio-cultural research activities in Indonesia. Hopefully also this activity can further increase cooperation between the University of Warsaw and various universities in Indonesia. I'm sure that there will also be lecture from various universities in Indonesia in this occasion, in this webinar, who may later become partner for the University of Warsaw. We are grateful. Because we, the Indonesian Institute of Surakarta, have made an understanding and agreement to cooperate in the academic and research field with University of Warsaw. In this occasion, of course, I will discuss fieldwork in Indonesia, especially concerning art research variant in Indonesia. I try to discuss this issue because this is under my concern. We tend to focus on research to bring the art world to life. Also, I know that art research is a very broad area because art is a field whose denotation is almost limitless. If we study art as a science, the infinity is surreal because we can see very much art from the perspective of Shangri.
¿Por qué ahí está la foto?
Así es. Porque dice que yo estoy viendo.
Okay, I think Dennis. Please continue, Professor.
Each genre of art can produce its knowledge. I believe that if we study about art as a science, the infinity is surreal, because we can see very much art from perspective of genre. Each genre of art can produce its knowledge. So there has never been a single, there has never been a single art science, but there are art sciences with various material objects and perspective. All of that allow us to develop each genre of art into its program study. The sciences include the science of performing art, science of fine art, science of craft art, recording art media, design art, fashion, advertising, and maybe culinary art. The performing arts science consists of dance, theater. If in Indonesia, we have pedalangan, or puppetry, music. There's also ethnic music program and other. While the fine art sciences, including painting, sculpture, graphic art, and intermediate. The art of crafts, cover of wooden craft, leather craft, ceramics, textile, and metal, including precious metal and jewelry. The science of the art recording media includes film, photography, television, broadcasting, graphic and publishing. While the science of design can consist of interior design, landscape design, science, visual communication design, product design, and architecture. In addition to these sciences, there are fashion science, advertising science, and culinary science. Each of the science can be developed using art study and artistic discipline, both descriptive artistic sciences and applied artistic science. Each discipline each discipline is oriented toward a specific formal perspective or object. However, in general, the art sciences can direct their material object to various phenomena in the art that includes abstract idea, physical form, symptom of reason and spirituality, problem of artistic expression, and the process of forming sign. So the study of art is a universal nature, not institutional nature, because art can also cover a very large area. As a result, art can be art can be studied in various groups of sciences, namely religious science, humanities groups of science, social science group, natural science group, formal science group, and applied science group. So it is not strict that art study are not only to be studied for the art college, but also concern for many parties in various university. Looking at this problem, we can imagine that the research variant in Indonesia are unlimited. However, I will try to look at. I would like to look at it from several categories, namely the category of research object and the proposition generated. On this occasion, I want to tell you about the condition of the art research in Indonesia. Naturally, I cannot possibly discuss all the art research in Indonesia. I only saw the phenomenon of the art research in the art college. Not all of the research, of course, may have observed. I have read hundreds of theses and dozens of dissertation. Some I read in depth, but there are also those I read at a glance. I have read in depth mainly on the thesis and dissertation, for which I became an examiner. On this occasion, I will tell the condition of scientific research that I have read in that I have read it seriously. Actually, scientific research always require the existence of objects that are subjected to the study target of research. In academic research, people refer to this most elementary object as material object. The target of research is the phenomenon of the world manifested in the presence of the consciousness of researcher. To develop the science of art, the material object being targeted is an artwork phenomenon or another phenomenon that has something to do with the artwork. The nature of phenomenon of the artwork is very broad. However, the focus of attention can lead researcher to scientific visibility in the breadth of that coverage. Scientific research is not enough to rely solely on material object, of course. Researchers need to pay attention to the formal object. This is axiological property that individualize one part of the material object that is the focus of research, so that it is easy to understand and uncover the condition of threat. Therefore, the nature of formal object is central to the problem, the center of attention, focus of interest, point of view, or point of origin on the study target of phenomenon that's become the material object. The possibility of developing a center of attention or formal object in art research is also endless. Material object in art research consists of 6 possibilities. The first is artwork, which include idea of art creation in the form of concept and physical phenomena in the artwork. The second is individual of group of people, include artists, appreciator, and also some mecenas who are alive and make the art live. The fourth is in social event. art and social event. The fifth is a science system that include the artistic system, and the artistic vocabulary. And the last is the psychological problem in the creation of in the creation and appreciation of art. The object that are most the object that most targeted by research are only three actually. The first is the work of art, both in the form of the physical reality of art and the idea in the artwork. The second is the matter of individual or group of people living and people who living and make art make art alive. The third is event of social social event in the frame of art. The third is social event in the frame of art. In contrast, object in the form of phenomena or of ideas in art is science system and psychological phenomena. The last is very rare and to be found. Formal objects are often also called scientific perspective. Also, there is someone called point of view. There's also mentioned as point of interest or theoretical framework. Theoretical framework. Art research must also have this element, this formal object, have some perspective, have point of view. The object, art research must also have this element, because without a formal object, scientific research is impossible. This object determine this object. I mean the formal objects determine the difference between one study and another study, because this object confirm at least three things. First, how the researcher discover knowledge. Second, how the researcher formulate this knowledge, and the three, how the researcher explain the knowledge, and four, how the researcher think, applies logic and argument in their research. On average, a variant of the formal object in art research refer to sociological, socio-cultural research. This appear in this application of paradigm element consists of a basic assumption, value, model, a problem to be solved or to be answered, concept, and research method. While the research method consisting of data collection method and analytical method. The last is the analytical research. But unfortunately, to find the difference in formal object in art, especially in art research, I mean, must pay attention to every element of the paradigm. The problem is that not all art research reflects the completeness of such paradigm. As a result, it is not easy to find significant variant in determining the sharpness of formal object in art research. However, when viewed from the tendency of formal object shooting, art research in Indonesia, on average, tend to be an hagiographic perspective. There is very little research that is in nomothetic perspective. Hagiographic research, I mean, seeks to describe, narrate, and expose the object, event, or idea to gain distinctive and unique understanding and meaning of the object, of the event, and also of the idea. While nomothetic research tends to generalize to obtain law that explain the type of category of phenomenon that are object. So art research tends to focus more on a complete and an in-depth understanding of one case rather than explaining the various variables in generic probabilistic phenomenon.
I'm sorry, Professor. I want to ask you for the conclusion.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to speak about conclusion. Okay. In the conclusion of my reading, the tendency of material object in art research focus more on the artwork, but concerning idea and various physical reality of artwork and social event in art. Perspective research tends to be hagiographic by borrowing research approach from the socio-cultural science. Even if we want to bring the science of art or artistic science to life, the approach is not helpful enough, because it will only raise the socio-cultural science themselves. At the same time, the science of art didn't develop significantly. Therefore, to truly cultivate art science from an art perspective, in-depth discussion of the development of perspective that might be nomothetic or hagiographic. Scientific proposition or statement in research report often receive less attention from the art researcher, because there is a general tendency that art research is an attempt to expose the phenomenon of art alone. But effort to create systematic division, classification, formulation of definition also receive less. I mean that effort to create systematic division, classification, and formulation of division also receive less attention from researcher. As a result, ontologically, the building of art sciences is less qualified for establishing art sciences. Therefore, the problem of research object, especially of the understanding of how to build formal object and build scientific propositions, needs more attention. I think that's my conclusion. Thank you very much for the attention, and very sorry in my English because I sure there's near somewhat uncomfortable with my English. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. After all presentation, we will have time for the discussion. Actually, it was longer than 10 minutes, but I hope we will be in time. So now I want to invite Marzanna Popławska, Dr. Marzanna Popławska from Institute of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology from Warsaw University in Poland, and she will present her paper, Ethnomusicological Fieldwork and its Methods.
Thank you very much, Pak Bagbag, for this great opening. And I'm also honored to be a part of this panel. Thanks to Renata and to organizers. And once more, thanks for everybody for being here and sharing their thoughts and experiences. So somewhat similarly to Professor Bambang Sunarto's paper and remarks, I will be talking about ethnomusicology, perhaps not all art or music studies research, but focusing more on the discipline of ethnomusicology and its fieldwork methods. I will be looking at some selected methods that I found personally most applicable to my current and previous research. And also I will try to look at them through current state of through current situation and look for current applications for those methods. So in my short presentation, I would like to highlight, as I said, a few selected aspects of ethnomusicological fieldwork, which are relevant to my research in Indonesia, but also in Poland, because as I will say later, the research which I started doing not long ago is a comparative research that and I will be doing fieldwork in Indonesia, but also in Poland, even though this panel focuses on Indonesia. When speaking of research methods and methodology in ethnomusicology, one faces a variety of approaches coming from various disciplines, because ethnomusicology is largely an interdisciplinary field. It draws from philosophy, literary and critical theories, sociology, and first of all, anthropology. Of course, it is deeply rooted in broadly understood music studies as well. The latest developments in ethnomusicology, inspired by recent movements, fairly recent movements such as Black Lives Matter and Me Too, focus on deeper and more meaningful decolonization of the discipline and its methods. A number of initiatives has been already undertaken by the Society for Ethnomusicology and International Council for Traditional Music, two major ethnomusicological organizations. This includes a change of leadership, seminars, and discussions on decolonizing the discipline. When mapping the most important issues concerning fieldwork in ethnomusicology, one has to turn to a number of notable sources that put strong emphasis on complexity and multi-sidedness of contemporary research. One of this is a book edited by Gregory Bartz and Timothy Cooley, two ethnomusicological scholars, with contributions from a number of seasoned ethnomusicologists. This book remains until today a major reference work on ethnomusicological fieldwork. The second source, even though not an ethnomusicology book per se, I find particularly relevant because it speaks to issues highly applicable to ethnomusicological fieldwork, specifically the processes of decolonization and the significance of indigenous or local perspectives on research. Both of these publications look at fieldwork as an issue-laden practice rather than as a methodology requiring a prescriptive manual. The authors present research problems not through technical norms that have to be followed, but in a much larger historical, political, and cultural context, examining the critical nature of research within those dynamics. The third piece, the most recent, it was just published by three authors, also ethnomusicologists, is a collaboration between British and Australian scholars. Even though the authors of this article are primarily concerned with research evaluation and assessment, They point to certain strengths and uniqueness of ethnomusicological research, which I also address here. Moreover, things that they are talking about are the ultimate stage of the research. So the evaluation done usually by institutions that not always are our home institutions, and by colleagues that are not necessarily representing our own fields. I would like to highlight a few points which are especially relevant for my own research, as I said already, and my fieldwork. There is no space to discuss them all here, but I do hope to raise some questions for our discussion in this unique cross-national and multidisciplinary meeting. Here are the points I would like to call your attention to, and I also be interested on your thoughts and relevance of your own experiences to those that I find very relevant to my own research. Transformation of the self, the researcher in the field, and also the research subject. This means how research changes us, the researchers, on professional, but also on personal level. Importance of the human relations and sharing lives and experiences, which also relates to issues of power dynamics, equality and egalitarianism. Benefits and challenges of virtual fieldwork, especially in the era of COVID-19 pandemic. Challenges of doing fieldwork at home, which in my research is Poland, but for some of our panelists is Indonesia. Advocacy and activism in the field sites, performativity in fieldwork, issues of gender, and dealing with the past, practices, customs, memories. I will briefly now address two of these issues, the human relations and advocacy, and the importance of human relations and sharing life's experiences that I find very tightly aligned. As I grapple with renewing my own research methods and look for new perspectives, I scrutinize Smith's approach and its applicability to the specifics of research in Indonesia. Smith calls for new approaches and methodologies to ensure that research with local communities is more respectful, ethical, sympathetic, and useful. Writing from the position of the colonized, she also identifies, quote, a need to address social issues within the wider framework of self-determination, decolonization, and social justice, end of quote. Of course, being myself a non-Indigenous researcher, these matters pose additional questions and challenges to my research. My PhD research was focused on music of religious Christian minority in Indonesia, both Protestant and Catholic. It resulted in a book published in English by Routledge 2 years ago. I conducted fieldwork in two locations, Central Java and the island of Flores. The two sites are not only different geographically, but also in terms of their social and cultural milieu. This comparison brought interesting findings about cultural identity of Indonesian Christians and their positioning within the national secular state structure and global religious affinities. My current research concerns the impact of intangible cultural heritage policies on local communities and performing arts, examined in a cross-cultural perspective. The field sites are Poland and Indonesia, as I mentioned. It concerns the impact of the UNESCO Convention on Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage that was adopted by the organization in 2003 and subsequently went into force in 2006. Indonesia signed this convention already in 2007, and the next year it will be 20 years since the convention was brought to life. I plan to conduct my research in 3 major locations: Sumatra, Java, and Kalimantan. The research involves working with cultural institutions and cultural administration, cultural activists, and local artists. It will be conducted on 4 different levels: international, global, national, regional, and local. Here are very briefly the main research questions I intend to examine. They are concerned with the impact of international cultural policies, the power dynamics, and the methods employed to safeguard intangible cultural heritage. While my previous research was also concerned with multi-level existence of musical practice, for the most part it was centered on local communities and their usage of traditional music in local Christian settings. Because of the broad design of the current research in terms of geography and the subject itself, as well as more limited time frame, 6 to 8 months, I will be probably starting most likely and hopefully starting this research in November of this year. My previous fieldwork lasted for 1.5 years. Therefore, during the current research, I will be most likely relying to a much greater extent than before on the expertise of local scholars and researchers, as well as activists and artists. These factors raise additional questions related to the collaborative aspects of the production, dissemination, and ownership of knowledge, which need to be handled with great attention and care. While self-examining my previous research in terms of its usefulness to local communities, there is a number of things that I wish I were able to do, and I am still hoping to do at least some of them. They concern, first of all, a greater dissemination of research results, including presentation of the research material at the research sites, translation of the book into Indonesian language, venturing into visual anthropology and making a documentary film, which, considering film's attractiveness as a popular media, it would considerably broaden the audience for the research and its results.
Marzanna, 3 minutes left.
Okay, I'm nearly finished. Drawing from the previous experience, I do hope to involve local researchers into a greater extent in the process of gathering the data and disseminating it, including joint publications. And since the very start, I have been thinking of it, and publicly I would like to thank Professor Bambang Sunarto for graciously opening to my ideas and willing to collaborate. As Professor Sunarto mentioned, the University of Warsaw just recently signed an agreement on research and educational collaboration with Institut Seni Indonesia in Surakarta, and soon we might be able to do the same with Universitas Sumatera Utara in Medan. And as far as I know, there is already such an agreement with Andalas University. There still remains an important question of funding for collaborative projects, even though there is a growing tendency within the global academic community to be more inclusive and collaborative. The current university and national evaluation schemes do not value as much collaborative knowledge production. That is something that calls for further debates and subsequent adjustments within the national evaluation system, at least in Poland. However, some Polish and Indonesian education programs for students have been created in recent years, which gives hope that the long-term collaborative efforts in cross-cultural research and also in performance will be possible in the near future. And on this optimistic note, I will end here. and hopefully some of these ideas for kinds of collaborations and collaborative methods will be able to discuss in the second part of our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. I believe it's only the beginning of our discussion. So now I would like to invite Ms. Eva Najma and also Ria Iman from Andalas University to present their paper.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ibu Renata. Ibu Eva Najma will present our paper. So she will read the PowerPoint. Thank you, Ibu Eva, please. We cannot hear you, Ibu Eva. I think you are still muted.
Okay. Okay,
no, it's okay.
You, Ibu Dia. Thanks, Ibu Renata. And actually, first of all, I'd like to thank to the committee, the 9th International ASEAN Congress, Torun, Poland, who has invited me and Ibu Dia, especially thanks to Ibu Renata, that I have met her before in Padang 3 years ago, I think, yeah, before pandemic COVID-19. And also, especially to everybody who are here, who are here, thanks to everybody here. And I am Eva Najma, a teaching staff of English Department, Universitas Andalas, Padang, Indonesia. Here we would like to present our research, our research ongoing, and I'd like to share the slide. Okay. Our research title, Reimagining Nature and Environment Through Minang and English Song Lyrics. Yeah. The background of our research, why we choose the lyrics of Minang and Western songs, because song lyrics as a cultural product reflect important meaning and messages. And song lyrics can be considered literature. And it is categorized poems. And they have directive and communicative message. The study of song lyrics over the last few years reflect more feeling of sadness or anger, and they seem to have left the feeling of happiness behind. The song lyrics in English and Minangkabau languages loaded with education and enlightenment about lives, nature, environment, and also war. And the lyrics of Minang songs as an asset of knowledge in reimagining cultural values of literary functions. We prove that they are a storehouse of knowledge connected to Minang philosophy. Alam takambang jadi guru means natural universe is the teacher of humanity. And our methods, our research is library research. We collected data from internet, from YouTube, from books also. And we apply eco-criticism theory supported by Greg Garrett theory and also about eco-criticism, and supported land ethic theory by Aldo Leopold in his book Essen County Almanac 1979. The theory is used to understand the relation between humans and nature as akin to interrelationship between humans. Leopold argued that moral community for land should include soil, water, plants, and animals. And he believes that nature also has the same right as humans. It is immoral when human interests are placed above natural interests on basic survival reasons. According to him, being moral means understanding, feeling, seeing, appreciating, caring, and believing in something. Yeah, so that's the reason we choose the theory. And next to the discussion, first one, human values toward nature that we have found in the songs, in the song lyrics. First, human values toward environment have been widely discussed in literature actually. Human values found in fragments of Minang and Western song lyrics, selfishness, concern for nature and the environment, as in the lyrics of Earth Song by Michael Jackson, that you pledge your only son, yeah, means you break a promise to your own child. This seems human have lied and broken promises to us. And the lyrics, did you ever stop to notice the blood we have shed before? You have never stopped the blood we have shed before. These remind humans of the bloodshed that has occurred on Earth and it has caused damage to nature. And then in the lyrics of Minang songs, yeah, the title of the songs Pasan Buruang, the greed of humans is also showed here. Yeah, this is in bahasa Minang. Usah tabang sumarang tabang, jiko lai takwi datang galodo, urang kampuang sawah joladang nantaniayo. This means a warning, yeah, that people should not be carelessly cutting down trees because it will have bad effect to nature and its people. Because of some people's carelessness, other people get bad consequences. Other bad trait depicted in some lyrics, people never express gratitude. Okay, this is the cover of cassette of Song of Pasan Buruang. Okay, the other songs of Minang, titled Garangnya Manusia, describe humans' anger quality. Air susu dibalas air tuba, which means milk in return with poison. Yeah. In bahasa Minang, urang lupojo daratan. Now this describes people do not remember to the affection of nature to them and never be grateful. Although only a few words, but it describes all the greedy of human nature. As a result, the earth expresses its disaster as a result of human activities. Okay, the second one, the values of environmental damage. Humans only consent to themselves after getting what they want from nature. He would go away regardless of damaging it. The success of people sometimes only want to dominate and exploit nature, widely rather than maintain it. And they tend to take care of the nature that they benefit from, that they take benefit from. Now, the damage of nature is people's intervention, violent, selfish, and ungrateful. Pasan Buruang describes the damage of nature due to human actions. An example, in line 2 and stanza 1, lah bapisah batang jo urenyo. This shows that the tree has been cut down, root and stem are separated. Now, in the song Mandanga kicau si buruang murai lah tabang jauh mambau untuang. Okay, this is an illustration. Yeah, the picture. The picture of tree. Yeah, and maybe some other places, birds. Yeah, and then also from Marillion also expresses environmental damage in her song entitled Beautiful. This song tells about human living where good things get bad and we only see the good thing in the first blink. After that, it will be a bad thing. Heavenly knows that we live in a world where what we call beautiful is just something on sale. Yeah, line 5, stanza 2. Leaves turn from red to brown to be trodden down. Leaves that have changed from red to brown, which has fallen. Okay, this shows that even nature has thought about the increasingly chaotic state in the earth. The speaker invites the listeners do not just need to live in a world where good things are bad, but we also need to live in a world of peace and give a second chance to good things to remain good. Okay, the next thing, the values of nature, compassion.
Dear Eva Najma, 3 minutes left.
Yeah, okay. Now, although humans have many bad traits to nature, it does not mean that humans not have good qualities. An example is Michael Jackson's Heal the World song lyrics. It is conveyed a message that humans want to take care of nature. Okay, this is Michael Jackson. This implies that the earth is created for us because if we were not the ones who look after it, who else? Only Human song lyrics by John Mars also tells about his concern for nature. This song tells about the life cycle of living things on the entire surface of the earth. Like humans married and have children, humans who continue to live their lives as they should and hope to attain search. Now, the speaker fully tells about life on earth and how to play roles in it. The rules of nature are without constitution, in which nature has its own rule and has the right to carry out its life. Now, this depicts how nature has its own way to live, and so are humans, who are only humans. Humans have the right to live in nature, but it does not mean living carelessly. Of course, there are rules. Human is also an agent who must take care of nature so that he can join nature anytime. Concerning nature, it also portrayed in The River, a song River Valley by Moxie Verfus. Yeah, the lyrics talk about man who loves nature. Yeah, and it means that for the sake of this love for nature, no one can prevent him from doing so. Okay, this is I mean contemporary conclusion because this research is ongoing research. Yeah, reimagining of Western and Minang song lyrics have significant differences. The value in Western song lyrics is more like about the relationship between human beings. Humans' greed gives negative impacts such as poverty and war and destroy nature. We argue that the Western lyrics have more global perspective than Minang songs. Otherwise, Minang song lyrics do not mention war due to the personal experience of the composers, which has more focus on the relationship between humans and nature itself. The songs share views that people are responsible for what happened to the environment and nature. The awareness of climate change has not been of interest to the songwriters. Okay, let's preserve our earth. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eva Najma. And now I would like to invite Budia Iman to present her paper, Identity and Challenges Being Female Minangkabau Migrants Living Outside Matrilineal Border.
Thank you very much, Ibu Renata. Yeah, my research is a little bit different. This is about identity challenges, being female Minangkabau migrants living outside matrilineal borders. So the outline of my presentation, this is this is an original research. When I did this research for my PhD, so it was kind of like the first research that has been done regarding female Minangkabau migrants. So this field research was conducted in Jakarta and Tangerang. I did it in 2011, but then I continued doing the research focus on this identity in 2021. And the method that I used was a direct intensive interview and then a snobbling sampling for those migrants who age about 15 to 70 years old. And they lived in both cities, like Jakarta and Tangerang. After 3 months, they migrated to their new living place. Just to get a little bit the background of the research, Minangkabau people as one of the matrilineal society, their identity based on where they live or which traditional house they live in. So the traditional house is to identify one's group and identity. It embodies kinship, gender, and rank. Identity is also related to the food that people eat and the availability of Minangkabau food through the Padang restaurant that people can find. And most of you here today, I think, have experienced Padang food. It is not called Minang food, and it is called more popular as Padang food, which is really strange. So, but if you come to Padang, we don't really find Padang food. Is we just call restaurant or rumah makan. So why I chose this topic? So as we know that Minangkabau people famous for their movement, yeah, but normally it was done by Minang men. But in the late 20s, the early 20th century, more and more Minangkabau women migrated also, but there was still, there was not a complete study or like a recent study to show why did Minangkabau women migrated also, because they are supposed to live or to maintain the ancestors, their ancestor heritage. I'm not going to read the whole explanation here about Minangkabau and matrilineal, but I'm just going to skip some and then focus on the philosophies behind the movement. Minangkabau saying here, the prophet saying, Alam takambang jadi guru, the natural universe is the teacher of humanity. And Minang life philosophies are embodied in the customary law, and the customary law embodies the traditional custom. So how Minangkabau people live based on all the rules that they have to follow. And they are attached to their traditional house. And Minangkabau also very famous as the self-reliant communities. And it is also regarded as one of the biggest matrilineal society in the world. And each nagari are the extended family unit and has its own guideline to organize and manage the life of the village structure. Then I'm just going to skip that one and then go to the, because I'm going to explain more about the identity. marriage in a suku or the clan is forbidden, and except he or she is from a distant village. So that is going to affect how Minang people in the migration area choose their partner. Okay, now I'm going to the next one. Gender roles of Minangkabau. This is very important because I'm going to discuss the finding that I find during my field research. So it is not easy to understand. It seems that adat contradicts with the Islamic practices because it's patriarchal values. And gender roles in Minangkabau matrilineal society are not terms of superior or inferior statuses. Women and men have a balanced relationship, and women are placed equal to men in relation to their duty and their functional values. So it is a little bit complicated for people to understand that when we talk about feminist issues and then about the matrilineal values, it seems like contradictory, but that's not what really happening in Minangkabau society. So men's authority is not forceful, and men have a marginal relationship to his matrilineal house and sons and husband and brothers. So there is a slide that I'm going to show that men traditionally do not have space in their home after the age of 10. So most traditionally they have to move to a mosque, and then he should live in a mosque, and then they learn more about Islamic teachings there. And traditionally, men's leave is a permanent movement, because when he divorces his wife or his wife dies, he cannot return to his mother's house, but he can return to his mosque where he learns Islamic teaching. Okay. Then about Minang women's roles. So they are the limpape, or the central pillar of the house. They have to maintain their ancestral land and then the other properties. Minangkabau women are also seen as the one who has the responsible and take care of their nieces, nephews, and lineage members. And what happened if they move to the migration area? So that means they have many roles. Traditionally, and when they leave their home or their homeland. So they are aware of their responsibilities, and culturally they get full support for higher education and career. They can speak for themselves and they are not marginalized. And the senior wealthy women have the power to make decisions of their ancestral land and her kin, because she as the senior has the power to decide for their clan. For her clan. They create and recreate household and matrilineal relations in which they are privileged with certain economics and social rights that men lack. Okay, I'm just going to show a little bit more about the philosophy. So the philosophy of a Minang girl or the Minang woman, alu tataruang patatigo samui tapija indak mati. So what it means is that when she stumbles by alu is this stick, and then if it is broken, and then it is broken into three, and step on an ant, the ant is not going to die. So given privileged right, the line descend from the mother line, and the big house to live, economic resources, a voting right in the discussion, being gracious and gentle, women are supposed to be strong and assertive. Minang women are stereotyped as strong, smart, confident, determined, graceful, and making decision policies in her family. So what happened after they migrate? So I'm just going to jump to the conclusion because we are running out of time. So Minang women had to position themselves betwixt and then between transition in Minangkabau identity. The Muslim identity is defined by their attire, because they have to wear the jilbab, because if they don't wear it, people will ask, oh, are you Minang? Why don't you wear a jilbab? So the association and the special purpose meeting conducted by Minang females, and finally the relation with their natal villages when they have the other events or ceremonies. So they tried to make a more balanced relationship between their traditional values and their new environment, because living in a patriarchal society like in Jakarta or Tangerang, it affects the way, the lifestyle of Minangkabau women somehow, but then they try to adjust it to also their roles in their homeland, because they still keep their roles. They cannot really migrate and then leave their responsibilities. And while the Minang may have imposed views of themselves, however, there were some negative stereotypes such as Padang Bengkok, which means abandoning Minang, which is they cannot be trusted. That's the stereotype. And then also the queen in control of the household. So patriarchal, men from patriarchal society are kind of like afraid to marry Minang women, Minang female migrants managed to redefine themselves as being away from their homeland and having freedom to some extent. They can decide how and what they should be, because the freedom that they have is not completely a free lifestyle, because their big the big relationship between people of Minangkabau who are also in the migrants areas are having control on Minangkabau women. Okay, so living in a new environment, being a Muslim, having a faith or iman help Minang women to stay strong, calm and neat. Calm and to be more gigih or tagih, being more persistent and determined and assertive or decisive. They are aware that they are raised to be self-independent, wise and mature and strong and believe in God. Besides having soft skill, having hard skill, cooking, sewing and gardening, etc., help women to support their family financially, especially her relative in their village. I think. Okay. So Minang women have to live up to their identity and manage their freedom within limitation. It's not really completely free. The value of adat or the customs and Islamic rule become the foundation of their path. There are many reasons advanced by Minang migrant women for wearing or not wearing a jilbab. In attempting to explore the women's reason, the respondent reported that their reason to wear jilbab are to heighten their neat look, advance a global Muslim identity, and to strengthen their commitment to Islam. It is noticeable that some women hold the elements of modernity and Islam. And living in my migration area or rantau may not make it easy for Minang women to keep all the religious values as well as the responsibilities toward their matrilineal community. Their roles in their migration area and their village are adjusted according to their location and need. It is really interesting when you interview people, and sometimes they try to hide their identity. They don't want to speak in front of the men or from the male relatives. I think that's all about Renata. I would like to hear during the discussion, we can discuss my finding and also comment, probably suggestion for my next research. Thank you very much, Ibu Renata.
Thank you very much, Maria. I'm really appreciate that you are with us, because I know that you have health problems. So thank you very much that you are with us.
Yeah.
And thank you for your presentation. It was really interesting. And now I want to invite the last presenter. It will be Anna Stępień, and she will present her experience with the research, her research in Indonesia.
Hello, everyone. As Renata already mentioned, my name is Anna Stępień, and I'm a doctoral researcher in social anthropology at Brunel University, London, conducting my PhD study on sociality, politics, and morality of orangutan rescue. It is a part of larger project refiguring global lives of the orangutan, refiguring conservation for the Anthropocene, which is funded by European Research Council. And my project was also a collaborative work with the Sumatran NGOs as well as Universitas Sumatra Utara. I will start with what I believe anthropologists do the best, storytelling. It is an afternoon in Balach, one of the villages which we survey for an upcoming permaculture project. I'm sitting on the kitchen stairs watching our host's wife bustling around in preparation for buka puasa, a breakfasting meal during Ramadan. She just told me that the story of how Leonardo DiCaprio lost his sunglasses while visiting a nearby forest restoration site, and how the community members felt offended by speculations that it must have been one of them who stole it. Her story is interrupted by a sound of a motorbike, followed soon by a clearly enraged voice. Just scraps of discussion can reach my ears. One voice is calm and sedate, while the other seems punitive and attacking. When the phrase "Klan Bawa tourist" occurs, I decide to step in. Ben, an NGO's community development manager, and Melin, a team member, are already in front of the house facing an evidently agitated man. Ben sits on the bench with a calm pose, while the man gesticulates vigorously. Melin keeps her position in the back. She looks stressed and apologetic. Taking a chance of moment of silence, I began to explain that I'm not a tourist, but a student on my university task, and I have all the required paperwork, including a valid negative COVID-19 test result. In fact, I was the only one amongst the team, which obviously I did not mention. Realizing I can speak Indonesian, the man quickly shifts to Javanese to cut me off from the conversation. When the man leaves, I ask Ben and Melin why he was so angry and try to piece the story together. He was angry because of you, Ben puts it bluntly. You know, you are a bule, and here in the villages, people believe that it is bule yang bawa penyakit. It came out that the agitated man is the head of our hamlet, not happy about the NGO bringing a foreigner to the village without reporting to him. Ben explained. Even Ben's assurance that we arrived no longer than few hours ago did not put him into the rest. Ben then continued pointing out that as a matter of fact, our activities in the village were announced during a meeting in the village head's office, which took place just a week ago. I have not been at that meeting, the man responded with anger. Ben, visibly already irritated, threw that it is a pity then, as the NGO wants to develop the village, and authorities from each hamlet were invited to join the socialization. That remark has just gaslighted the situation. This is my place, and you tell your boss that I'm not afraid of him, the hamlet's head yelled and made his way out. Soon I've learned that our 8th hamlet was a crucial location for the project due to its proximity to the national park. Its objective was to introduce permaculture practices to women as a way to increase households' income and provide an alternative to illegal forest encroachments. These have been already reported in the nearby post-forest restoration site claimed by the NGOs as its biggest conservation success story. With just a few days away from Idul Fitri, we were running out of time, still having around 70 household surveys to go and 30 villagers to recruit. Our travel permit was due in 2 days. Following PPKM, a COVID-19 related policy affecting people's mobility, we were allowed to move around based on a letter providing that we conduct work-related tasks. My friends began to stress that in case of any delays, we will stuck in the village and they will not reunite with their families for the most important Muslim celebrations. For Ben, the only Christian in the team, it meant that he would not see his young kids and wife for another 2 weeks, as his family, due to his work in the NGO, lives separately on a daily basis. It is the next day. The following night, Ben made an unsuccessful attempt to settle things down. Still, he decides that we stick to the plan and just move to a neighboring hamlet. News in the village, however, travels faster than us, and when we arrive, the hamlet's head, though welcome us politely, declines to grant his blessing for the survey. He explains that as a precaution to hold the increase of the COVID-19 infections due to Mudik, And because of the village's strategic location on the main route between Aceh and North Sumatra province, the whole village has been subject to an entry ban for a few days. I'm not brave to allow you outsiders to move around while my own neighbors' kids were forbidden to come back home for Eid al-Fitr. That would make people angry, he decides. Although we have failed again, Ben instructs the team to spread around the hamlet and conduct some surveys. If we are to achieve the number of households required in the project, we cannot lose a day. An hour later, we catch up to regroup, but one of the team members, Rab, does not bring good news. Villagers keep asking if our activities have been approved by the hamlet's authorities. The atmosphere becomes even denser and the team members are torn. In such case, shall we proceed? Has the hamlet's head, who made us an unfortunate visit yesterday, turned others against us? Should we consider that these two hamlets are lost cause and move to the others? And foremost, if so, how the NGO will explain to the donor organization a failure to include these two most crucial sites. In the evening, Ben decides to pay a visit to another hamlet. Apparently, the father of one of the co-workers performs his duties as a head there. I stay in the house of Melind and take this opportunity to ask what she thinks about the situation. You know, we are going to do a community development project here, work with these people, and I don't think we have made a good start. A community development team cannot afford to make enemies. It doesn't put us in a good light if we proceed with the survey without Hamlet's head of support. If we have a bad relationship with one, it will negatively affect the others. I think we should just call it off and restart fresh after Lebaran. In the evening, after coordinating with the friend's father, Ben announces his decision. The team will continue to survey the more distant parts of the village. Hopefully, the situation will calm down after Lebaran, and it will be possible to still return to the abandoned hamlets. However, and he turned his eyes on me, you can't leave the house until we are done. You know, it is because you are a bule, and people think that bule bawa penyakit. I still remember a mix of emotions running through my head at that time. A feeling of guilt that my presence has negatively affected the team and influenced the conduct of the project. A frustration that after over a year of pre-fieldwork coordination, lengthy permit procedures, my first withdrawal from the field due to the COVID outbreak, another year in pandemic waiting room, various extension and exemption applications, I was finally there, yet I could not get in. And finally, I was stressed. I could empathize with Ben's struggle to keep pushing no matter what. We both were bounded by time limits, obligations towards our projects and donors, and finally, the funding expiration date. We both had to operate under the project's regime, and Bate made a strategic move. I was walking proof that the entry ban has been breached. Without me, the team could blend in. It was their way to get in. Story 2. When I arrived in Medan at the beginning of 2021, I could feel that the atmosphere is dense. NGO people seemed to be harder to approach, and I observed how carefully they weighed their words when we talked. Soon I learned that they indeed have been disciplined on what type of messages they sent to outside world. For instance, my friend running an NGO had decided to refrain his name from an international publication co-authored with the foreign researchers, considering it as too risky. Some NGOs had to run their social media content, such as Facebook posts, Instagram stories, through state agencies for their approval. My host organization experienced several interventions from the state authorities, questioning the involvement of each foreigner in the NGO circle, and I soon was also called by the immigration forces to provide such explanation. This was an aftermath of the series of state interventions aimed at environmental NGOs operating in Indonesia. One of the most extreme examples was probably Pan-Eco case. In 2019, the Swiss-based organization working in Sumatra and one of the biggest actors in orangutan conservation was accused by the Indonesian authorities of conducting a harmful black campaign against the Indonesian state. The Ministry of Environment claimed that the organization had overstepped its memorandum of understanding and conducting conservation projects and started to interfere with Indonesian politics. Such a strong response was triggered by an international article published in scientific journal where researchers associated with the NGO had declared a high-profile national hydropower investment in Sumatra a threat to survival of local orangutan population. Many substantial statements were issued at that time, and in example, state representatives used the press to remind the public that orangutans are Indonesia's national natural riches, and as fully independent country, Indonesia does not need Bule to protect them. High-profile Paneco foreign scientists and orangutan conservation practitioners were reported to the police accused of causing civil unrest, as local communities were dragged into the middle of the conflict and demonstrations took place in front of Paneco Sumatran office. Finally, demands for urgent deportation of all Paneco foreign staff in Sumatra were announced. Facing an inevitable catastrophe that could wreck the organization's future, its management took a desperate step. The researchers, authors of the article were dismissed and obliged to leave Indonesia. In the meantime, Paneco signed a memorandum of collaboration with the company and became the first non-governmental defender of the power plant. Analyzing the wider context of states' environmental political discourse, I came to conclusions that these interventions are a manifestation of the state's increased responsiveness to foreign engagements with Indonesian environmental matters. Orangutan conservation, naturally concentrated in Indonesia and Malaysia, yet being of a global scale interest and dominated by Western subjects, has become a feasible platform to enact states' authority and responsiveness. NGOs, including my host organization, had to intensify the efforts to navigate between their dependencies on national regional politics and the state's environmental discourse, while at the same time being responsive to international expectations and imaginations on conservation. This had a profound impact on my research, making my foreigners field presence subject to a careful assessment. My engagements in the field had to be approved on a case-to-case basis, and many times along the process I was declined, informed that the situation was too sensitive for me to join. In other words, my access was denied whenever seen as posing a potential threat to hardly worked out equilibrium. As anthropologists, we give great attention to matters of access. We acknowledge its active form and embrace it as a process influenced by time, trust, and efforts to balance the power constellations underlying the ethnographic encounter. The dynamic and relational character of access make it a subject of ongoing revisions and negotiations. In other words, access is never once won, and neither should be taken for granted. Finally, we are self-conscious about how our identities bind both the research process and the knowledge we produce. Access negotiations became a substantial and meaningful element of my research. In the field, my identities as a woman, unmarried, foreigner, the global North citizen, and an early-stage social scientist began to resonate with localized politics, power dynamics, ideologies, and beliefs, exposing me to what I call a contested presence, an experience of being contested, ghosted, or denied. The autoethnographic approach recognizes the researcher's personal experience as an important and informative element of a research process. Paying attention to junctions between the researcher's self and studied social world, autoethnography offers another lens to describe and interpret sociocultural processes, practices, or beliefs. In this sense, autoethnography moves beyond its narrow definition of writing about own people to writing about people in their struggles. Departing from my own experience of contexted presence, I've started to move across scales, localize and explore the junction areas. In Balakh case, I have learned that after years of intensive forest restoration process run by the NGO that brought projects, work, money, and foreign guests to the village, the release of the reforested area came with the experience of being abandoned. When the organization returned to the location with a new project, it entered with a confidence that their past lengthy experience is enough to legitimize the new intervention. It did not acknowledge the village dynamics and the change that has happened, and what are the long-term social aftermaths of their lost presence. Finally, the organization was reminded that even a lengthy presence and broad projects do not entitle them to move above the local rules and protocols. For the community, they still remained guests. My personal experience of being ghosted or declined when approached with an analytical stance came to be a useful research tool. They made me more sensitive towards tensions, discontents, and contestations underlying conservation encounters. They increased my empathy towards the experience of conservation practitioners, conflicts of loyalties, clashes over acknowledgement and recognition, outside pressures, experiences of exclusion, and limited agency. My presence was proactive, in a sense that at times it serves as a driver of events through which various processes and dynamics became perceptible. And last but not least, it provoked me to reflect on my own entwinements in the inside and outside power dynamics and helped me to embrace denial not only as a manifestation of power dynamics, but as a way to disturb them. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much for showing us autoethnography perspective. It was very interesting, as all presentations. Now I would like to open the second part of our meeting, discussion. So I want to invite you to give the questions to our panelists. My goal was to choose different researchers, different scientists who will present, and they presented different perspectives of making researches in Indonesia or about Indonesian aspects of the culture. Do we have questions? I know the presentation.
Can I ask a question to Anna?
Of course.
My curiosity, thank you very much, Ibu Renata, for the opportunity that I would like to ask Anna, Steven. I'm just wondering, when you did the research as a foreigner, as you said that, you got some obstacles and problems, did the NGOs expect some kind of like, how do you say, that you have to support what they have do, or they have, they want you to expose what have been done towards the orangutan? What did they expect from you actually after doing the research? Did they expect you something to promote their location, or there is other expectation that they want from you? I think that's all. Thank you very much, Ibu Renata.
Should I answer directly? Yes. Okay, so thank you, Ibu Dia. That's very interesting question, actually, because I was also at times like crushed in a conflicted loyalties. So my research was designed in a collaboration with the NGO that I was supposed to join. And my personal research interest was more in the ways how the NGO works and how they operate on the ground, and all these political entwinements that for the people in West became like unseen. But I was collaborating very intensively with the NGO. So I took part in several trainings to train them about the social scientist research methodologies and how to use them in the conservation practice. I also trained like people in one of the project sites of using the ethnographic methodology. I was assisting them through the way how they approach people in an ethnographic way. Yes, I was helping with that data collection, so I was joining the activist surveys, etc. And I also made a presentation at the end of my research, because I also managed to collect some perspective of the local communities on the orangutan or on orangutan conservation in general. So yeah, this involvement was, I was trying to give as much as possible from my space and from my place. Also because one of the objectivities of this project was to bridge conservation practitioner and scientists with anthropologists and provide some ideas how we can, as anthropologists, also kind of work in conservation, or what we can give for the conservation practice and thought.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I saw Daria Zazula wants to give the question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for all the interesting lectures, but also the last one, Anya's presentation worried me the most, because for me this is what you said, that the community saw Bule as people that were spreading diseases, and that you stopped being welcome. Well, I see that as a sign of shift in the society of Indonesian community. I mean, from the society that was once open to foreigners, it is becoming more and more xenophobic, maybe even, right? And I was wondering if you can explain, or maybe what's your opinion on that? Why is that? Maybe you have an idea why is that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daria, for your question. So I will give some more context to this. That was the third village that I traveled to with the same team for the same purpose. And only in this particular village, that was the situation that I met. In the two other villages, I was moving around and nobody pay my attention. But indeed, such situations were happening more than this once during my research. So I was in Indonesia for 11 months, and it was not the first time that I heard that bule bawa penyakit. So yeah, that was enormously challenging. But I think that this kind of approach towards foreigners, it's also very visible in Indonesian environmental politics. This is also part of my research. I was stuck down in the pandemic waiting room. I was also doing analysis of Indonesian environmental discourses, and this is very profound shift from the state's authorities to became responsive and very critical towards how foreigners involved in the matters of environment in Indonesia. Also, as I was trying to point out, that was kind of what I was trying also to point out was that actually it was much more complex situation than just declining me because I was a white person. In fact, I see it more like it just worked as a trigger to actually talk about the abandonment and about the relations that were happening between this particular NGO and the community on the ground. Because after the situation has happened, I also talk about this with another NGO people, and they said, yeah, it's actually they who make this remark that, but it was not actually about you. It's these people are angry because we just left them and nobody was there since years. So yeah, everything is very complex and dynamic, but yeah, I could see this phenomena that you said, especially in the environmental politics.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We have one question in chat. It's from Royan. I want to ask a question about Indonesian Minang song research, since it has a really profound meaning and really relevant with our current condition in Indonesia related to the greediness of some giant companies that harm of our environment. Are we already utilize those local wisdom songs as our tool to educate our children, especially in elementary school level? And it's good idea to use local songs to raise environmental awareness of our children and youth. Thank you. So this is the question and comment to Ms. Eva.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ryan Fadli, for the question. Please allow me, maybe if I also can add a little bit more later on. Yeah, first of all, it is true, actually, the awareness about nature and how to keep our environment, that through the songs that children can be introduced and can be, how do you say, to feel more affection about their environment. However, as far as I know, or we know, that there are not many Minang songs, especially like talking about nature and how to be respectful and how to protect nature. And I do think that the next generation, this is going to be a new field open for composer to educate young people or children by introducing the song in their mother tongue language. Because there are some Indonesian song, but I think in order to maintain or to keep the Minangkabau language right from the early age for the Minangkabau young generation, it will be really an ideal approach. We start introducing about nature and environment to the young generation, especially the children from the kindergarten, for example. And that's an open, how to say, that's a new challenge for all of us to create and to compose songs to help young people to understand more and respect nature and environment. I think that I can, that's all that I can say, but maybe Ibu Eva can give more explanation or want to add something.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree that it is a good idea to use local songs to raise environmental awareness of our children and youth. Yeah? But actually, our young generation or children or youth sometimes do not know, do not familiar with the songs of Minang songs. But I do agree that that's the challenge for the composer to create the songs for children about nature. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Thank you very much, Budia, Bu Eva. The next person who wants to give the question is Jan Bastian, and then Marzanna Popławska, and then I see a question from Professor Bamban. Okay, so let's start. Jan Bastian, please.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I'm Jan, currently living and study in Torun of Poland, a small beautiful city in Poland. What I would like to ask is more of like a personal journey of Ibu Dia as someone who involved in the social work, or at least do the research in this term, in this regard. My planning after finishing my study is to get back to Indonesia and do some social work, perhaps set up my own yayasan. Yeah. But I have a concerns about my personal situation that is being faced by the current situations in Indonesia. We know that like last decade, it's not that just Indonesia, I guess, but many other countries has been interrupted by the social media or something, and then the call to get back to the literal translate of Islamic, religious book has been prevalent anywhere. And I'm a man, I'm on my middle 30s. In my society, a demand for me to get married is very intense, and I assume that by the time it will get more intense, it is not from the nucleus family, but it's more of like extra outside of nuclear family who demand me. But I personally, I'm not doing that, and I don't want to explain the reason because I don't have to explain that to the people. But for me, I'm thinking of like it will kindly, how to say, stand in the way of my future mission of work. Do you see the same kind of problem have stand in your way during your career in social related things? Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Bu Reta, can I just answer the question right away?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mas Yan. Yeah. May I know where are you from? I mean, so like I can explain a little bit more.
Great. I'm from Nusa Tenggara Barat, but
okay.
my island is called Sumbawa.
Yeah, I've been there just for a short visit from the ocean. Thank you very much. Yeah, frankly speaking, our status, if we are dealing with the society, I think it depends where you are and who you are and how you react to people's question. Because as we know, Indonesia is very rich of different ethnic groups, and of course they will react differently, whether this a foreigner like Ibu Renata or Anna or Ibu Mazana when you visit. And even for me, and I'm as a Minang doing research about Minang people, but I did it in Jakarta, which is not my my hometown. So we face, I think we are all going to face different challenges. When I did my research, people question, oh, you are a student. So because I have to introduce, I'm a student, I'm doing research. So say, oh, you are a student. So what is the advantage of your research for us? So it's very challenging to, because Minang people, sometimes we say that very materialistic. Somehow they say, what is the benefit of your research for us? So it's kind of like sometimes painful for us because we are as a student. So I think for you, if you want to start your yayasan or foundation, it depends what is your target or who is your target. If you establish this foundation, are you going to target it for people from Sumba, for example, who live in Jakarta, or you are going to do that in your hometown? I think the challenges will be different. And then your status, whether you are married or you are single, of course, Indonesian, sometimes we say that we are very fussy about how, if you are not married, how and why. If you are married, you don't have children, why not having children? So I think it's a very normal question that we have to face. And I think all of us here who are doing the field research have, have to counter this kind of question. And it is very challenging. And I do suggest that it depends whether you really need to tell the truth or you just sometimes make what we call a white lie. Berbohong demi kebaikan. I think it is okay as long as it's not going to affect people in general. But I do sometimes that I have to tell the truth that, sometimes informants or our target needs some kind of treatment. They expect me to pay for their lunch or their dinner during the interview. And it depends how are we going to explain that we don't really have like a lot of budget, for example. And, so the challenges are there. So Mas Yan Bastian, I think it depends how you approach them. And then whether sometimes you just need to keep the truth for yourself. And, you just tell some people the truth and make a white lie so you can go on with your plan. So it will not be stopped by, some people who are jealous, who are very curious. I think it's depend on where you are going to establish the yayasan and where you're going to, to do your activities. I think, I hope I have answered your question, Mas Yan. Thank you very much for my personal experience. Different because I was a student at the time, and I was like quite old according to them. That you are a student, but you are over 40. You are not a student. They didn't believe that I was a student. So it was difficult to answer. I'm a student. They didn't believe that I was a student because you don't look like a student, like 20 something like that. Because I was doing my research when I was already over 40. So it was kind of late for doing PhD research at the time. But society have different perspective and expectation from a researcher. I think. Thank you very much.
So your personal profile didn't really affect the contradicting value of the local, right? You just can do your mission over there. No, that's not true, because I did my research in Jakarta and I had to deal with, it was not in West Sumatra. So I did my research in Jakarta and Tangerang, but my informants were Minang women and Minang men. So their response to my question completely in the different ways. Male, and then they say, what are you doing? What is the benefit of your research for Minang women? And it was a big, I didn't expect something like that. They will ask me, apa untungnya riset Anda untuk perempuan Minang? So I said, what? So they didn't see that it is important for me to do my research. So my profile as a student at my age, it was not really, helpful actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marzanna, please, this is your time for question.
Thank you. I have a question for Professor Bambang Sunarto. As I understand, nowadays, the Indonesian government is urging for global participation of Indonesian scholars and also Indonesian students in educational institutions. So I'm wondering about, apart from programs that are dedicated to students, which we already know they do exist, and for example, more and more students, including Nusa Tenggara Barat, are studying in Poland. But my question concerns more of formal structures and also funding for what I am interested most at this stage for this intercultural or bicultural research that I was talking a little bit in my presentation. So what sort of chances perhaps are of support from Indonesian government and also university hierarchy I know Pak Bambang is now, Professor Bambang Sunarto is now at the highest structure of the ISI Surakarta, because he's participating in the governance of the university. Basically, more specifically, I'm asking what sort of funding would be available for creating collaborative research, and also thinking of dissemination of research results in Indonesia in terms of, for example, joint conferences and so on.
Thank you. Professor Bambang Sunarto.
Okay, okay, thank you. Actually, in Indonesia, there is many researchers to get funding in research for student and also for lecturer in Indonesia. Firstly, there is funding from ministry, education ministry, and also there is also from LPTP, and a lot of scheme of research in Indonesia. The one scheme is pasca sarjana research. Pasca sarjana research is research for student, for masteral student, and also for doctoral student. In this occasion, we can make collaboration between student and other university also. At the same time, also we have collaboration research also. This is the possibility. The ISI Surakarta, the lecturer in ISI Surakarta, it's possible to make a collaboration research with a lecturer in University of Warsaw. This is about the funding of the funding of the research. Relating to the possibility to the research itself. We have the possibility to make the research in any objects, in any perspective, and I hope that the research in especially in the art institution, we can hope we can formulate the new talk about arts, not only in technical aspect, but also in various aspects in the art. So is it possible we can research in art using discipline of the other scientific perspective? That's my explanation about the condition of the research in especially in the institution of the art. maybe because I little bit something loss of the point. Maybe I can share your point clearly, Marzana.
Yes, thank you for the answer. I'm sort of, this question stemmed from my experience of sort of fighting through the Polish university structures, and sort of despite the increasing cooperation between Poland and Indonesia, it's very hard to convince people that the research in Indonesia, I'm speaking for ethnomusicology, anthropology, is worthwhile. So kind of looking also for other possibilities of reaching out through certain programs and schemes within the university, but also perhaps beyond university or outside of the university. So I feel a little bit we are perhaps I'm hoping at the beginning of building something together after that agreement between Warsaw University and IAC Surakarta was signed, that perhaps it will be possible to put in place some kind of structures and schemes, both for educational exchange of the students, but also for exchange of researchers. And on my side, I can say that I will be looking at ways of not only researchers from here or students from here to go to Indonesia, but also vice versa, to invite researchers and scholars from Indonesia to come here to Poland. And I know on the sort of higher scheme of political life, it has been going on, because I know of exchanges between or visits, for example, of Indonesian guests from parliament and so on. So I think this is growing, and it would be good if we really kept sort of finger on those things that are happening, and were able to join in those trends, and also build our own, as I said, structures and schemes that would enable this collaborative research, which as I said in my presentation, I'm still myself sort of finding ways and methods to do this research collaboratively, because in many ways it's different from my previous research. And first of all, it's not uni-ethnographic in the way that it's not one place that I will be based in. So this building of relations is important to me, even before actually starting fieldwork, and I have been doing it for a few months now. IAC Surakarta is an obvious for me place because of my previous stays there, but also trying to do the same in Sumatra, in Medan, in Padang Panjang, to establish relationships and schemes, exchanges that perhaps my research will be a starting point, but I do not want this to die after I finish my 3-year period of research. I would like it to continue. So,
okay.
Thank you very much.
Marzana, my answer is very short. Let's figure it out together.
I think I will leave my email address in the chat. So if some of you wants to go to the network, I think I can connect all participants to a chosen professor, and we can continue discussion. Actually, this is what I observed. This is the huge challenge nowadays, according to new cooperations, university cooperation between Poland and Indonesia. It's something really new. It starts a few years ago, and we still, in my opinion, we're still on the beginning to create some rules of cooperation, how we can do this. Of course, we have the pandemic, so everything is changed. So in my opinion, we are on the beginning of the cooperation again. I have also one question, but before me, I see two questions to Ania Stępień. I don't know if you see, Ania, in chat the questions. There's one from Professor Bambang Sunarto, and the second from Sardoni Kurniawan, who was also our guest in Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń. Anya, can you unmute your camera?
Yes, sorry. Thank you to Professor Bambang for this question, because it's a really, really, really great question. So I'm afraid that I would have to go back to digging in how the knowledge is being built up during the anthropological research. We operate with a very specific methodology of the participant observation when the researcher is an active part of the process, and we there are huge debates in anthropology about the one truth and about the objectivity. There's no time to talk about this now, but there are a lot of book references on these topics. So we built our knowledge based on the personal experiences and personal encounters with the people on the ground. So we try to dig in as much to the daily life of people. Much of this knowledge is being built up on informal conversations and everyday activities, basically. This can be supported also by the interviews, which are more or less formalized. We also, of course, embrace, aim for this research objectivity by the data triangulation, meaning that we also approach the same data or situation from different angles. That's the one way to respond to your question. And I think that what is important when you are conducting such research in an anthropological way or in autoethnography is that we are from the beginning very much trained in a self-reflection on how our presence, our various identities, our position in the power relation influences the research process and also the knowledge that we build. It was something that also Budia was talking about, that for instance, to talk about examples, me as a woman, I can approach different groups and acquire different type of knowledge than, for example, a male researcher. So in anthropology, we don't have this kind of the influences that the researcher present has. We just try to operationalize them and be self-reflective about them. And I think that the second question is actually to Professor Bambang more than to me, because I don't have much clue about the research about arts and if there is a space to apply this methodology.
There's connection with the question of the Pak Doni Kurniawan. He think about the possibility to apply this perspective in research for a bachelor student. So that's why I try to ask you, because a little bit there's a problematic for to make a research with auto ethnographic perspective. That's why to answer Pak Doni, I would like to say that it's very possible for us to carry out art research from auto ethnographic perspective. But however, the thing that must be mastered first in the conceptual in research ethnographic, we must master in conceptual foundation of auto ethnography. What is auto ethnography? How is the rational? How is the position of ethnography in the qualitative tradition? This is very important, because, and last but not least, about the philosophical and epistemological background. If all of these things are not mastered, it will be a bigger problem for students. That's my opinion. I think the explanation from Anya quite good for me, because this it will make me confident to encourage students, especially an master's student and also a doctoral student, to use this perspective. Thus, maybe your research as for me is a model for became a model for me. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Professor. I don't see more questions, but I have one, maybe on the end. I know that we are out of time, but discussion is so interesting that I will ask Michał, is it possible to continue with the last question? I don't know if Michał is still there. If not,
oh yes, I am. Of course, it's possible.
I want to make my
decision. If panelists have time, then definitely we can listen to you longer. It will be a pleasure.
Okay, so I want to close our meeting with one question to all of you, because Professor Bambang Sunarto, Budia, whoever, Umajanna, Anna, all of you, you are from the different, your research is really different researchers. And my question is, what was the biggest research challenge during pandemic of COVID-19? Because we have 3 guests from Indonesia. You were in Indonesia and you could do your research in Indonesia. At the same time, we have Anna Stempien, who has this possibility to go to Indonesia and make her research during pandemic. And we have Marzanna Popłaska, and you, Marzanna, you did mostly virtual research, which is really extremely difficult. So I just want to ask you, maybe we can start with Professor Bambang Sunarto. What was the biggest challenge during pandemic? Research challenge.
It is difficult for me to carry out and get a research for my student, because the situation of the pandemic. On my place, or on my city, almost every day we hear a siren of ambulance. Almost every day. That's why we cannot do anything out of only to collect the data. So we cannot do anything. So I just guide to my student in the research, just use the data in the internet, and we should to criticize the data from internet based on our experience, based on our knowledge, based on our rationality. And I asked to my student in the pandemic situation to use the data in any data from internet, and I asked to interview the competent personnel using platform WhatsApp and others. That's my my situation when I meet the pandemic.
Thank you very much. And Marzanna, maybe you want to give the...
Okay, thank you. So I've been shaping this research during the COVID, and one of the effects of the COVID was me postponing it for a year because of the lack of possibilities to travel. Also, in my 3-year research period, I designed 6 months of preparatory time, which actually was I'm happy that I've done that, because otherwise there would be a lot of stress on me of not doing the fieldwork and not producing the results that I have to produce at the end. However, I think during the COVID, we also discovered that so much more is possible through digital resources. So there was so much data on the internet that people who otherwise, for example, would do live performances, that started doing pre-recorded performances. So there was a lot of data, and of course that poses also another issue, that you have to be more critical about that data, what you find and how you evaluate it and so on. But also during COVID time, the access to, for example, libraries, we know JSTOR and other digital platforms, they made it possible to read, to access resources that were before available either only to subscribers, or the recent publications were not available and they became available. Also, I think globally there is a greater emphasis on research which is widely available to everybody. So publishing on platforms, in journals that are online journals and are accessible for everyone. So I found this also a positive side in a way of this period. However, what was something very new for me, this preparatory stage of my research has extended somewhat, and I also tried to build relations with possible sites in Indonesia, possible sites for my research before I went there. So I was looking for contacts. I was also refreshing the contacts that I had before. It was sort of interesting experience because with some people I talked for the very first time. We sort of met in this digital space, only talking by phone or sometimes via video. That was telling me that the personal encounter, it's obviously the one that anthropologists, ethnomusicologists value most. And even though the digital resources, media can broaden, enable more of that, but they cannot replace entirely the person-to-person contact. So I was always grateful for the possibilities of talking to people, but I also to myself called those conversations not really interviews, but exchange of thoughts and what they were, conversations. So I in a way didn't treat them very formally, because at the same time they served establishing a certain research relation. So at the same time, I was very grateful for all those media, Facebook and WhatsApp and so on, and their availability in Poland and in Indonesia, so we could contact via those sources. That's all.
Thank you very much. Budia, Bu Eva Najwa, how was your situation? What was the biggest challenge?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ibu Renata, maybe Bu Eva wants to say something first.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Renata. So far, our research is conducting library research. This is in ongoing research. In the past time, in pandemic COVID-19, we search the data from digital form and from YouTube, from a journal and so on. But now we plan to continue our research on field research, after this, after the pandemic. That's, I think that we are going to go to continue our research. Ibu Renata, okay, thank you, Ibu Renata.
Thank you.
I would like to add. Thank you very much, Ibu Renata. Because at the moment I'm doing two kind of research. One is with Ibu Eva regarding the songs, lyrics, and then my other research is regarding the migrant women, Minangkabau women. It is very interesting. During the pandemic, it's supposed to be like the contact through internet, like Zoom meeting or WhatsApp or Facebook. Somehow it was useful, but the other obstacle that occurred for the Minangkabau women, because they had to help their children doing their homework and dealing with the Zoom class, Zoom meeting or online class with their school. So it was kind of like I had to delay, because sometimes the women didn't have time to answer my question because they were busy sending the homework of their children to the teacher. So, and then they forgot to reply to my messages, or they didn't have to talk online with me or via WhatsApp or Zoom meeting. So it was very challenging, but I had to be very patient, because during the pandemic time, people deal with different situation and problem and economic problems, so and emotion, because sometimes I could understand that the mother who didn't understand mathematics, they had to help their children dealing with mathematics, so they ignore my my question, that I would like to hear more about the struggle that they had to face during the pandemic time. So I think hopefully after this pandemic time, now Indonesia is open. I could meet my informants face to face and to get more insight, perspective about how they deal with the pandemic time. That's all I could say. Bu Renata, thank you.
Thank you very much, Budia. Anya, you want to add something? Because your situation was completely different. You could go to Indonesia. You've been in Indonesia during the pandemic. So yeah, I'm really interested. What was your biggest challenge, the biggest challenge?
I think that because I went to Indonesia once for the fieldwork for this research, and the first time I was asked to come back to Europe after 2 weeks because that was the official outbreak of the pandemic. And at that time, everybody thought that it's maybe 1-2 months and we are going to be okay. And then it was already 1 year. So the biggest challenge for me was to find my way back to the field. I mean that the specificity of the topic of my research made it impossible to easily transfer it to the online kind of research. I would have to design like totally new research for the purpose, which was also complicated because I'm part of the bigger project. We have this funding from the European Research Council. In the British system, you also need to go through very careful procedures before you go to the field. You have the ethics application, which takes months as well. So I would have to restart everything from the beginning. And basically in British universities at the time, it was also forbidden to go to do research. So I had to apply for an exemption from the rules. Then I had to extend my research permission in Indonesia, which was like another additional time. Then I found out that, all the bureaucratic things that you have to do connected to the research bureaucracy in Indonesia became like even longer and more complicated. So even when I think that I was like done with all the paperwork actually like 4 months after my arrival in Indonesia, to be honest. So I think that that's why I prepared this paper for today, because the struggles for access were a big theme, ongoing theme during my research. So how to get in and but it also made me think that we, as an anthropologist and with this participant observation and informal contacts and stuff like this, we kind of, we start to explore the possibilities of the online research. But in the case of the study, especially after this, what I observed in Indonesia, after I already knew that the content that the internet content is being like kind of very carefully produced to accommodate the Indonesian local politics and stuff like that, I would simply not get the picture that I wanted to have about gaining the reality of the orangutan conservation that is not visible from the West or from the global North. So that was the main struggle, to really try to get there.
Thank you very much. I don't see more questions, so I want to thank you for the really inspiring meeting. We spent almost 2.5 hours, so and I feel like it was like half an hour. I don't know if all of us feel like the same, right? Thank you very much. I hope we can see each other next year during 10th International Asian Congress, which is organized by University Nikolaus Copernicus University with the cooperation with the different organizations and institutions in Torun. Michał, do you want to close our meeting?
I think I have nothing more to add to what Ms. Renata Lesmer-Schwarz said already. Thank you very much for inspiring, interesting presentation, interesting panel. I have learned a lot, actually, and I think so the listeners and then participants of the Congress that will be accessing this panel online. So thank you very much. And I really hope that we will maintain our cooperation, and in the future we will have chance to listen to your presentations again and hopefully meet in person in Torun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day and evening.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend to all of you. Yeah. Hopefully we can meet again next year, online or offline.
No offline.
Waiting for all of you in Padang, Andalas University.
Terima kasih Bu Dia.
Sama-sama, Prof. Pak Bambang. Kapan datang ke Padang, Pak?
Oh iya, nanti suatu saat akan ke Padang pasti.
Ya, harus Pak ke Andalas. Ibu Renata juga kami tunggu, Ibu Marzana, Anya.
Oke, terima kasih atas undangannya.
Anya, sampai ketemu Anya.
Iya, terima kasih banyak. Semoga sukses selalu.
Selamat siang ya di sana sekarang, di sini sudah sore.
Iya.
Terima kasih sekali Bu Renata. Ya Pak.
Renata,
terima kasih ya. Ya, izin live ya Bu Renata, ya semua. Mami Hao.
Bu Eva, terima kasih.
Bu Renata, terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Marzana.
Ya, terima kasih Pak.
Sehat ya.
Ya, sehat sampai nanti saya menulis di email lebih banyak.
Oke, saya live ya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Monggo.